Are you really frustrated that some people seem to fall so easily into a relationship while you keep struggling in relationships over and over again? There are 4 key dynamics you need to pay attention to if you have a history of struggling in relationship, or if you don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. And stick around to the end of the lesson because I'm going to debunk a piece of really common dating and relationship advice that's causing you to struggle even more than you should. And one of these dynamics is going to completely turn that around for you. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Amy and I help with women who struggle with relationship insecurity and anxiety, particularly when they're dating. And I help them to rediscover their self-worth and create a beautifully secure relationship within themselves so that they can attract their ideal high-value partner and create a secure, conscious relationship. And if you want more content on this topic, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so you get notified because I'm posting new lessons like this every week. Before we start the lesson today, I want to let you know that a few places have opened on my calendar for the free one-to-one session for the Love by Design program. If you want to know how to apply for that, make sure you stick around to the end of the lesson. So if you really struggle in relationships, there are 4 key dynamics that you need to focus on, and these are going to change everything for you. And the first dynamic that you're going to focus on is your bond with that person. So I want you to look at how you tend to bond. Unhealthy bonding tends to happen where we rush in too quickly and we get swept up in the chemistry and the excitement of the connection. Or perhaps we're only bonding with people that we have that incredible spark with, and everyone else we just kind of label as too boring. And the problem with this kind of over-attaching and getting swept away is that we don't go through the effective sorting process about who we're attaching to, and we don't discern if this person is even suitable or compatible for us. And you tend to deny your own needs in a connection and bond like this, and you tend to also lose your identity and lose your sense of self. So if this is you, I want you to know that this attachment pattern is really common for people that have a history of people-pleasing or they've had enmeshed relationships in their life, particularly if in their family of origin, this was a pattern that they had when they were children. These kinds of relationships from an early age cause what we call insecure attachment style, which includes anxious and avoidant and all of those kinds of attachment styles where you tend to override the self in order to get that connection. And the tendency to overconnect is that you're actually trying to stay safe. Because you've got a deeper wounding, perhaps it's a fear of abandonment, a fear of being hurt, and that over-attachment is a safety mechanism for you. So we need to rewire how we bond so that we can stop struggling in relationships. So let's look at what healthy bonding actually looks like. In healthy bonding, there's a real balance around the connection itself. There may be some, attraction and some chemistry, but there's also some really significant like friendship and steady and safe connection as well. And even a chemistry and attraction that doesn't appear at first is still a good sign. It's still a good reason to date someone because often those kinds of deeper physical attractions can form over time when we see that this person is trustworthy and reliable. So don't rely only on chemistry when you're connecting with someone. Think about if you actually like this person, if you'd like to hang out with them. And a good test for this is think about someone you really care about in your life, like a best friend. Would you like this person in front of you to be dating them, right? Would you feel comfortable with them going out with this kind of person? And think about if their lifestyle and their values and their energy in general is actually compatible with you. Is that something that you could work with and live with every day? Now, healthy bonding really happens on what I call the spectrum of bonding. And this refers to the wholeness in how you bond. And if you struggle in relationships, you've probably only ever focused on your bond as lovers. And when you've come up against your first conflict, because there's no friendship in place, the relationship tends to crash and burn as quickly as it got started in the first place. So focusing on hitting the points and touching the aspects of the bond along the spectrum in as many different places as you can is going to set yourself up for a healthy bond and healthy connection that's going to last the test of time and all of the conflicts and difficulties that come with going into a committed relationship. So you want to be making sure that you have a bond around friendship, and that includes your ability to just laugh and joke and have humor together naturally, and having some similar interests together, being supportive in difficult times. And, when you're dating, it takes some time to notice if that person's supportive or not, so you can see how they react and how they help their friends and their family in their life. And if over time you do go through that with them, you'll see whether they are actually supportive. And think about whether you would actually choose to spend time with this person. Like, if you had absolutely no other things to do, would you choose to sit in a room with this person and just chat? Would there be interesting conversation between you, or would there not be kind of any conversation happening at all? And also an aspect of friendship is if they are caring and nurturing and just generally kind human beings. So making sure that you've got that connection on all those points will help you bond on the friendship end of the spectrum. And some of those aspects will also merge over to the lover side of the spectrum, which tends to include obviously the physical attraction and the emotional attraction, and something we call polarity, which is a really important aspect of connection between two people, regardless of gender, where they sit in their masculine and feminine or yang and yin. And this is where one person can sit back in their feminine or yin, and the other person will naturally meet them with the opposite energy, and it creates this kind of magnetic attraction and tension between them. It's really important that in a connection with someone, you can sit back in your feminine and they step into their masculine. Two feminine energies can waver and not really have that kind of polarity and spark you're looking for. And vice versa as well. As a woman, if you're a woman stepping into your masculine and they soften, having that polarity can be really important too. There's no gender, it doesn't matter what gender you are, we want to be able to waver between the two and have that polarity between us. And the other aspect of that is remaining a bit having a little bit of mystery and allure in who you are, not always overgiving and oversharing and overdoing yourself. It's really about maintaining a bit of a bubble and really protecting the sense of self and knowing that the other person is also doing that. That in itself creates some mystery and allure that's really important for romantic connection. And also another aspect of bonding on this end of the spectrum is if your partner can challenge you in a way that really sparks you and really energizes you, not in a controlling way or in a way that suggests that there's anything wrong with you or that taps into your lack of self-worth, but in a way that lifts you up or really lights a fire underneath you. The last aspect of the spectrum of bonding is that there is effective push and pull in the relationship. So in a healthy lover bond, a person that pushes in with a request or trying to do something and the other person's naturally going to pull away, that's a healthy pull away. But if they pull away so that they completely leave the relationship or they check out energetically or they physically leave, that's an unhealthy push-pull. And the same in the reverse, making sure that there is effective push from your partner when you pull back, when you're not available for the first few days. We'll talk about that in a minute. But be aware that the wholeness around the bond is super important when effectively bonding with someone in a really healthy way, and to not just focus on all those aspects along the right-hand side there. The second dynamic you need to focus on if you struggle in relationships is authenticity. A common pattern when you struggle in relationships is that you tend to lose your identity or lose your sense of identity in relationship, or you've never even had a strong identity in relationship. And that's when you tend to mold your behavior or attitudes to fit theirs in order to keep that connection going. And you tend to give them too much space and just completely deny your own needs, or you deny your needs just to maintain that connection, because safety is your number one in that insecure attachment. And that's really true if you have a history of people pleasing. And again, it's really important for us to understand the attachment mechanism behind why we do this. You place safety at the top of the pile when you have an insecure attachment style within yourself, because connection is more important for you than the self, any needs that you have. So that's why you don't do anything that might harm the connection, like voicing your needs or setting a boundary that's healthy for you. You tend to not do those things, or you deny the fact that you even have them because you don't want to harm the connection, which is so important for you. And this is a pattern that's come from childhood, where your earlier attachments in your family of origin and in your attachment blueprint from, your primary caregivers, they weren't always available for you for the connection you need. So you tend to override from childhood whatever it is that you need in order just to maintain that connection, because that was a primal need you had as a child. And because it's a subconscious mechanism that we learn to do from such an early age, we bring it into our adult intimate relationships as well, and that then informs how we override ourselves in order to maintain connections in an insecurely attached relationship. So if this is something you tend to do, people pleasing, or you have any kind of history of codependency, maintaining your identity is going to be one of the most important dynamics for you to focus on. Knowing your true needs and really being able to listen to your truth firstly, to hear it, and then practice expressing it in the form of asking for your needs to be met. We are only as needy as our unmet needs, or expressing them in the form of a boundary. And when you're setting boundaries, you're setting them from a grounded place where you know that this is right for you, and this is the boundary that is set. This is what I can manage, and I cannot manage that. And a part of maintaining your identity is also knowing yourself at a deeper level. So knowing what your deeper wounds are and your past triggers and past trauma in relationship and perhaps from childhood, because really it's important for us to maintain our sense of self and hold a space for our wounding, rather than letting that bleed into the relationship. That's a part of our identity responsibility. And the last aspect around this is to also discern if they can maintain their identity, or are they tending to override themselves, or really deny their own needs just to try and meet you where you're at? Or are they grounded and secure in who they are, and can they set effective boundaries and communicate their needs? Do they have that kind of level of self-awareness? Now, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Is this a pattern for you where you do over-attach and you lose identity in relationship? And do these dynamics really help you get a sense of how you need to move forward in order to bond in a healthy way? Now, the next dynamic to build a healthy relationship for people that struggle in relationships is to maintain a balance of push-pull, which I've already briefly mentioned in terms of the bond, but let's unpack it even further. Identifying push-pull and whether there's a healthy balance is an excellent tool to actually discern if that person is emotionally available to you. So a healthy push-pull between two people feels a bit like a dance, not a chase, because they've pulled away so far and you're chasing them. We know that chasing behavior. Or another unhealthy push-pull is they're pushing in too far and we feel that we need to run away. Now, knowing our wounding and knowing our triggers, and if we tend to be more avoidant or we tend to be more anxious, which is where we chase, is really important in this container as well. And to keep the balance of push-pull so that there isn't any triggering going on, or we're unpacking and healing our own work while we're connecting with this person. So a healthy dance is where you might push forward, which might be, hey, I would really love to go on a date with you tomorrow night. Can we do that? And they pull back a little bit, but not too far back, and they respond in a healthy way. They might not be as keen as you. There's nothing wrong with that, but they haven't kind of completely ghosted you. You don't hear from them for weeks after you've asked a question. That's an unhealthy version of that. Or the other aspect to identify if there's healthy push-pull is when you pull back. And if you're dating, a pull back is where you don't contact them for a couple of days, or you don't send them a message. You're focusing on other things, and you'd like to see how they step into the space, if they step into the space. So a healthy dynamic there, meaning that they're emotionally available, is that they do choose to step into the space. They send you a text, give you a call. Hey, I haven't heard from you in a few days. How's it all going? Or they decide to arrange something with you. That it's not a manipulation tactic. It's just a natural law of you pulling back a little bit just to give them space to offer something in and contribute something to the connection as it forms. So some great aspects of playing with this push-pull when you're dating is to really look at the frequency of communication. Are you pushing in too much? Are you communicating too much? Is it time to step back and see if they come in and communicate a little bit more with you? It's really healthy to have space and to not be in contact every day when you're dating someone. It's so important. Another way you can work with the push-pull in the dating stage is when you're actually on a date with them. If you're the one that tends to ask all the questions so that they talk, and that would be the push where you're constantly like pushing in and getting them to talk, just step back and stop asking questions and see what they do with the space there. Do they just keep talking about themselves? Do they never ask you a question about yourself? That can give you some really important data on that person that day. Or do they step in and they do ask you questions around that? So that's another aspect of push-pull in dating. Another way to see whether this dance is healthy is to set some boundaries around your availability when you're dating. Now, setting a boundary is a bit of a push to say, hey, I'm not available this Friday night, sorry, and I would love to see you next week, and look at what they do with that. How far do they pull back? Do they completely pull back and you don't hear from them? Or do they respond in a healthy, respectful way? Then looking at the push-pull dance in the context of relationship, you can look at how you manage expectations between the two of you. So an expectation is a kind of a big push. They're putting their energy down that this is what I expect. Now, expectations can really harm relationships. So having too many expectations all the time can really, ruin a bond. But if someone does set an expectation, what is the frequency of them pushing into the relationship? And just having a healthy pullback and looking at it and deciding whether that is something you can work with or not, and then also offering your own expectations as well. If you have one person pushing in all the time, it's going to really make it difficult for the other partner, and vice versa. So look at how each partner works with their own expectation and how the other partner works to relent or release to it. There needs to be a healthy balance of both, both partners having some of their expectations met, and both partners also relenting to each other's expectations in a healthy way, because we're working together as a team to create an environment that works for both people. Another aspect around push-pull in relationship is to look at how each partner invests in a relationship. Their energy when they push in, that's them giving energy into the relationship. Is both partners doing that equally one at a time, or is there only one person investing in the relationship over and over again? And what I mean by that is like daily connection that maintains the bond, like little acts of love, whatever it might be in terms of your love language. Is that person doing that in your language? How people are putting energy and effort into the relationship, each pushing and pulling back, is a really important sign that there is a nice little dance going on. The last aspect around push-pull in relationship you can look at if it's healthy is around vulnerability. Because vulnerability is a kind of a push in terms of opening up a deeper part of yourself. And it's a sign that you trust and feel safe with this person. And it's an opportunity for the other person to pull back in terms of giving you that safe space to speak. Right? An unhealthy situation here is where you being vulnerable and the other person pushing in and judging it or doing something with that energy rather than stepping back and holding a safe space for you. So leading with vulnerability in the relationship will give you an effective idea of how that dynamic is working in a dance between the two of you. Now, the last aspect of push-pull, and this really will inform how you do it in dating and relationships, is your own internal availability to yourself. Because we can look at push dynamics within ourselves as strong triggers that come up and strong emotions or feelings or memories and flashbacks, right? If that comes up, how good are you at pulling back and listening to yourself and holding space for yourself being kind to who you are and where you're at, and effectively self-soothing and reparenting the wounded aspects of who you are. The more effective that you do that within yourself will inform how you effectively do that for your intimate partner. So this is the aspect that I call the internal push-pull. And we truly do have this aspect where some days we will have things coming up and some days we'll just be not experiencing it, but we need to go with the internal ebb and flow and hold space for ourselves. Now, the last dynamic that you need to focus on if you have a history of struggling in relationships and you want to build a healthy relationship is the dynamic of trust. Now, a lot of us have lost trust in relationships. We've had partners cheat on us, we've had heartbreak, and we might have a sense that, can we even trust another person again? But what's really interesting is we know when trust has been lost and broken, but what does it actually take to build trust in a connection? So focusing on this dynamic can really help you to be conscious about whether this person is someone you can trust and whether this is a healthy relationship you can build together. So the first aspect of trust you need to focus on is trust of self. If you don't trust yourself, you won't be able to trust others around you. That is just the bottom line here. So trusting yourself involves knowing your needs and knowing that you're going to communicate them to people around you as they come up, and knowing that you're going to set the boundaries necessary in order to protect the self and what your needs are in that moment, that day, that week. And particularly when you're triggered or when there's deeper wounding coming up, knowing that you're going to hold a space, like I've mentioned, around this kind of push-pull internally, knowing that you'll hold a space for it and that you can effectively manage your own triggers and not have it bleed out into needing people to do certain things or say certain things just to walk on eggshells around you. Knowing that you can handle your own triggers is a type of self-trust. That's going to really allow you to hold space for yourself while you hold space for others and keep trust in. So now, trust in dating. How do you form trust with a new connection and a new partner? There's got to be a basic dynamic between two people of respect and honesty, kindness and compassion to form trust. And I'm going to say that based on my own experiences, but I feel that that is universal. That is what trust is about. This person is a basically good human being, right? I don't need to second guess. I don't need to overthink because I'm seeing them show up with these qualities. And the other aspect of trust in dating is seeing that they're consistent. They're consistently available to you. So even if they say to you, hey, this week you've been seeing them 3 times a week, and one week they say, hey, I can't see you this week, but I'd love to see you next week. That's still consistency because they're showing up with an opportunity for you to see them again. Or if they're being consistent in communication and they actually aren't available to see you at all and they're ending things, it's still trustworthy that the person can show up and communicate that to you, as opposed to ghosting, right? Ghosting is the opposite of trustworthy behavior. And it's also really important, that when people do hold boundaries like that, it is so trustworthy because someone that is over available to you, that wants to see you all the time, you know that they're denying and overriding their life and what they do and their own priorities, that they've got some parts of their life that are missing or that they're not investing in. So that kind of boundary setting is a really trustworthy activity. The other aspect around building trust in dating is seeing that their words align with their actions over time, which is why it is important to take your time when you get to know someone and really let time pass. And if you want more information on how to do that, I want you to watch this video next. And the last way you can discern whether this person is trustworthy and start forming trust is a concept called the vault by Brené Brown. Now, the vault is an intimate space that you hold with another person that they've given you some intimate details about them, and you don't break the vault. You don't open it up and tell other people their intimate details. So if your dating partner starts telling you vault details about a friend of theirs or an ex-girlfriend or a family member, the fact that they're breaking the vault on a relationship they have with someone else is a sign of that they're not trustworthy and that they will potentially break the vault on any details you have with you. So the way they speak about their relationships and the details they give and the respect that they speak about of those people is a really great way to establish whether there's trust and to start feeling trust with that person. Trust in relationship really comes down to honesty, and honesty is something we're not used to feeling completely comfortable with. Knowing that your partner will speak the absolute truth to you requires that you can hold space for all of their truth and that you see all of who they are. And this really does start in the dating stage, but being completely honest in relationships is such an important aspect of trust, and in my opinion, a reason why so many of us struggle in relationships around the area of trust. So the depth of the honesty that each partner has in the relationship container will automatically reflect the depth of intimacy you have with that person. So anything that isn't honesty, and that includes any white lies or withholding anything in order to protect your partner, is actually not honesty. It is effectively a form of a lie, and it really degrades connection. Now, think about why you might protect another person, particularly an intimate partner. You might have a feeling that they can't handle the truth, or that it's going to degrade the connection if you tell them that information. It is absolutely not the case. Withholding information and keeping parts of your life a secret from your intimate, committed relationship degrades the connection. And that kind of safety that you're trying to create is actually a really clever protective mechanism that you have, because in withholding that information, you don't actually have to be completely honest with yourself, right? You can lead your life without that deep level of self-honesty. So in order to create that deeply intimate connection in relationship that has trust, you need to have a deep level of honesty with yourself about your own life and about all aspects of it. Now, the common piece of dating and relationship advice that I see a lot everywhere is that you can do things in order to attract and hook in your ideal partner. Now, that idea of manipulating your external environment to get something that you need is actually a form of pushing, right? And what's the natural law in terms of push-pull? If you push out, what does your external environment and potential dating partners do? They pull away, right? So if we were to really align with this balance of push-pull, the only way that you can attract your partner, your potential partner to your life, is certainly not to manipulate your external environment and make sure you're texting in the right way or getting scripts about how to make the relationship move more quickly. You need to pull back, and you need to act with integrity and authenticity in your life. And you need to model the person that you want to attract into your life, because that is the energy that will attract your ideal partner to you. And even in a relationship, that if you're currently in a relationship, let's say you really want your partner to communicate and open up more. And the way that you've been trying to get them to do that is by pushing to them and saying, hey, I really want to hear from you more. Can you speak? Pushing to them to get them to speak up. And obviously they pull away. So the way that we get our partner to communicate into a relationship is to pull back, create space. They probably won't want to step into it straight away because they're a bit exhausted. But you pull back and you start communicating more integrity, in more alignment, being open and intimate about how you're feeling. Lead with communication in this way in your relationships, and that will either cause and attract your partner to step in and open up in that way, if there is that natural balance, a healthy balance of push-pull. And if there isn't a healthy balance of push-pull and your partner doesn't step into the relationship in that way and you're truly in your integrity, that's a sign that there is something deeper going on in the relationship, that you might not be in a healthy relationship, and it's time to do something about it. So I've given you 4 essential dynamics to focus on if you struggle in relationships, and these dynamics are really key to building healthy relationships, particularly if you have a pattern of losing your identity, struggling with trust, only bonding if things are super exciting. But I want you to know that there are 3 specific steps to really creating a secure relationship with yourself and with your potential partner. And knowing these 3 steps can truly change your life. So I have a free training on the proven 3 steps to creating a secure relationship, and I'd love for you to join me in that training. You can click the link below to join me there. And if you'd like to submit your application for the one-to-one consult, which is totally free with me for the Love by Design program, my calendar link is below. You can find a time right there. I also have a free Facebook group. I would love to see you in that. And please comment below how this video helped, or if you have any questions at all. I'd love to see you in the comments. And if you did find this video helpful, please click the like button. You'll really help this channel out. In the meantime, here are some next step videos for you to watch so that you can move one step closer to having an incredibly secure, conscious, and healthy relationship. And for now, I'll see you in the next video.